Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
G'day everyone, how you going? Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. We're going to jump back into an area which I haven't really spoken about recently. If you've been tuning in for a little while, you'll know that Smart Property Investment, one of the reasons why we created this thing was to share our journey, our experience investing in property. And probably about sort of 4 or 5 years ago, we were doing a lot of renovations here in Sydney on our own portfolio, and we just share that with you all, and it's pretty cool. Go and check it out, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, where we've done some renos, which take us sort of 3-4 months through to one renovation we did on a 2-bedroom apartment out in Mount Druitt probably 5 years ago. We did it all in a weekend, over 3 days, a complete renovation. So we like renovating. We haven't really been doing much of it recently. A lot of it is because we've been buying up in Queensland, and it's not really suiting our portfolio purpose to be renovating properties up there. But we're moving into a market now in Sydney in particular where I think you're going to see a lot more renos coming through. And the reason why I say that is that I don't think market's going to move at the rapid rate of what they did maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, but I think there's a really good way to manufacture equity in this city market, and also down in Melbourne. So very similar dynamics moving forward. So I think property investors are going to be looking for properties within these areas which have renovation potential so they can manufacture equity. And that's how they're going to actually make capital growth happen rather than sitting around and letting the market take its effect. But I'm not an expert at this. I've done a bit of it beforehand. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. But there's a lot of people that know a lot more about this than me. And one of them is Naomi Findlay. You might have heard of her before. She's on the television, does stuff, and she's coming to have a chat with us today and have a chat about this market that we're in right now and how property investors can benefit through renovation. Naomi, how are you going?
I'm going great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, it's good. Thanks for coming in. And you know a few things about renovation?
One or two.
How long
things.
have you been doing it now?
Look, I bought my first house in 2001 and I renovated in about 2003.
Okay.
So a little while. Seen a lot of different changes in renovating and in the market over that time.
So today, I just want to try and get all the secrets to your success.
Just pour them out.
For free.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And this is what I use this podcast for my
set, go.
My own personal education. And which is a good way because I enjoy it. And I always, to my point, I think the Sydney market is going to start showing some opportunities for manufacturing equity through renovation for property investors moving forward. And we'll touch on that. But I was sort of thinking before I come on why you actually renovate a property, and, couple of points. You renovate to stay in it, you renovate it to flip it, make a few bucks on the way through, you renovate it to increase the rent to get a greater yield, and you renovate to get capital gains. And that capital gains can sit there and it's equity to change your LVR position, or you might be able to leverage that and refinance and use that money to keep going. Is there any other reasons why you renovate property?
Look, for me, everything around renovating is all about creating wealth. And so whether that be financial wealth, whether that be lifestyle wealth, contribution wealth, whatever it might be. Like I always say that for me, the ultimate version of wealth is fluidity, is freedom to make choice about what you do each and every day. And so for me, you've covered most of them. So there's obviously renovate to flip. So whether that's pulling out the cash straight away, renovate to hold where you're getting a rent or increasing existing rental return on an existing property. There is naturally the renovate to create equity and leverage and go again or diversify, whatever it might be. And there is also, and it's a massive thing at the moment that I'm noticing and a lot of my students are doing, which is renovate to short stay, which is a bit of a twist. And it's working great in a lot of markets that maybe have a not so good vacancy rate on long-term leases or aren't showing amazing returns on properties at the moment because of where they are in the magical property cycle. But if they're in the right location, there can be quite a decent return at minimum what they would get from a long-term tenant in short-term leases.
So this is you renovate a place so you can chuck it up on Airbnb or Stays or whatever it is. That's pretty much it.
Absolutely. And there's a pile of different, obviously it's a bit of a different formula that you need to renovate to, and there's a pile of different things you need to think about, but that's certainly something that I am seeing. I've got some students in Toowoomba. I have some properties in Rocky.
Okay.
I know that both of those markets are quite good if the property's in the right location, it's actually a better return for people in those circumstances than it actually is for a long-term tenant.
Are we talking like short term, like 6 months? Are we talking about holiday destination where someone comes in for a week and
not even holiday destination. If it's in a city, it can be fantastic for a conference. It can be fantastic for zipping up there for work, going to check out the property market. So it doesn't have to be a 6-month lease. It could be anything from 2 nights all the way through to 3 months.
Okay. And when you renovate, may as well start with that. If you're renovating to create a product for short stay, whether it's 1 night, one week, 1 year, whatever, 6 months, what do you need to do differently in that regards?
Oh, lots of things. You need to really look at your amenity per room. So depending whether you're going to renovate to rent the entire house out or whether you're going to renovate each room. So obviously each room there are different security precautions. If you're looking at really short stay, so maximum of a week, you can look at your storage differently. You need to look at the bathroom. Often you'll need extra WCs in there. So they're those sorts of things to look at, as well as accessibility. Accessibility is huge on short stays. So you need to think about that too.
As in getting people into the house without having to pick up keys from somewhere.
Yeah, and also accessible access. So disabled access, that sort of stuff. You need to think about that as well.
So for property investors who are going to sort of play in this short stay space and find themselves an asset, which is probably a different podcast, but you've got an asset, then you've got to renovate for purpose.
Yes.
How do you is that something that a beginner investor should be doing, or you reckon you need to probably have a bit of scar tissue before you go down that path?
A bit of scar tissue. Yeah. That's a gold statement.
There you go. You can use it.
Can I use that?
Yeah, take
I've got
it away.
A bit of scar tissue.
It can be yours.
Oh, yes. I am claiming that. That's brilliant. So for me, no matter where you're starting, you always have to know your target market at the end. And as you said, that's probably another entire conversation about how to find the properties. Yeah. But for me, making that sort of decision, that's part of actually the finding, because you need to understand in the area you're looking at, is there short stayability? Is it owner occupiers? Is it investors? Are they all leased? All of these sorts of questions actually play into, and your exit strategy actually plays into the type of properties you're looking at and where you're looking at them. So it's kind of not, I'm going to have that exit strategy, or I'm going to buy that property, I'm going to give it this exit strategy. It all actually has to mesh. It can't be compartmentalised from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to sort of have a look at some of these other reasons why you would renovate, Naomi. But before we do that, I just want to go to a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Naomi Findlay. We're having a look and understanding, or getting a greater understanding of renovation in this particular market. And the question is, Naomi, we're just chatting about renovation for short stay based stuff. So what that says to me is that these other types of renovations you do, there is a time and place for all of them.
100%.
And is it always a good time to renovate is the question then?
Oh, that's a gold question. I'm naturally going to answer yes.
Okay.
100%.
There's always a good time to renovate.
There is always a good time to renovate. Like, we are about to experience the biggest 80s glut of ugly houses from the 80s housing boom. Like, realistically, how far are we on from there now? Like, we're 30, nearly 40 years on. I know, it's crazy. Hey, you feel really old right now, don't you? Yeah. Totally.
Don't look at that.
No, of course not. We actually can see each other. Yeah. So there's a massive glut of 80s houses coming on the market. As you mentioned, especially, in a couple of markets around the country, people aren't going to be able to ride the magical wave that they've been riding and surfing for the past 5 or 6 years in some of the markets. And so no matter what market you're in, if you find the right property and you know what you're doing and you're able to add value for the specific exit strategy of that property that you're after, then I believe that there is always a good time to renovate.
So if you're looking at, say, the Sydney and Melbourne markets and you're going down through the process of a strategy to manufacture equity in a property, so you buy properties under market value, spend really smart money on renovating it to create a product which is worth more, would you be hunting those sort of 80s based properties which are in dire need of a reno? Is that the sort of hot spot right now, do you think, for getting the best bang for your buck?
Look, I think the 80s bracket is really good for people that don't have a lot of scar tissue. So I believe that, I'm a fan of houses up to 100 years of age, but sometimes you do need the scar tissue that you mentioned to be able to handle some of those renovations. I believe that 80s boom that we had that are presenting 30 and 40-year-old homes are from from a structural perspective often, and from a level of renovation perspective, are a really great opportunity for people to get in that are maybe in, sitting inside their first 10 properties that they've renovated. They generally provide slightly lesser challenges, and it's more about maintenance, upgrades and adding value than like rebuilding.
Because I've done a lot of renos on sort of late 60s, 70s stuff, which is good fun, but it has its own challenge. And I was just thinking then, when's the sort of cutoff point from asbestos and no asbestos when you're renovating? Is it sort of mid-80s is when they really started getting rid of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, you've put me on the spot with that one.
Yeah.
It's got a 5 in it. So I think it's after I was born.
Yeah.
So it is the mid-80s.
Yeah.
But for me, it's interesting because a lot of people are like, you must wear PPE because the house is pre-asbestos, yeah? Well, when we had asbestos everywhere. For me, some of the stuff that comes out of those walls is as bad as some of the asbestos. So for me, if it's a 90s house, which I would never renovate, it's too young, but even like a late 80s, early 90s house, it's PPE all the way, no matter what. Like it's nothing that comes out of those walls or from under that carpet or...
Is that good for you?
None of it is that great for you, hey? Yeah. And so for me, it is that every house is high precaution and high hazard until proven otherwise.
Okay. So... the renovation tactics today, as in this market versus, and every market's a market, but we're talking about 2019 versus what they were sort of 10 years ago for you. What's been the biggest change, you reckon?
I say this as respectfully as I can. I believe that, say, 10 years ago, we could have Rambo renovators that would get lucky 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah, because they were able to paint, they were able to floor, they were handy, they were able to throw a few things together.
Bodge it up.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they were able to make money. They truly, truly were. And part of that was market. Part of that was level of sophistication of the buyers. I think the biggest thing that's changed is if you want to create wealth renovating and you want to do it as a professional on the side, but as a serious side hustle, you need to have some nous nowadays. You need to understand the markets better. You need to understand what the market wants. You need to understand how to deliver it to them at the lowest possible price point, naturally. And it really does need to be quality work. It is like there's...
People are more discerning these days. Right?
Oh my gosh. Our markets are sophisticated, they're intelligent, they know what they want and they know what can be achieved. And so if you undercapitalising, for me, I see as one of the biggest errors a renovator can make, because our buyers and our tenants are astute. And if you undercapitalise, you won't have to worry about not making as much money because you actually won't sell or lease.
So this whole idea of renovating, a lot of people love to renovate because they
do. They see it on TV.
They see it on TV, right? They see it on TV and go, oh, a couple of things. They see it on TV and go, that looks like fun, or I would get satisfaction out of doing that is one reason. A lot of other people renovate, and I notice this amongst property investors, is that because they might have a 9-to-5 job as PAYG employee. And they go, actually, this actually gives me the control to actually be a business person because I'm in charge of my own destiny. If I stuff it up, I stuff it up, happens. But if I'm successful, it's something that they can contribute to their own personal development, upbringing, wealth creation, which is all really cool. If I speak to a property strategist, they will tell me that you shouldn't build a property investment wealth creation strategy based on renovating. It should be a product of what you're trying to achieve. So they'll go, a blended portfolio might look like X, and therefore there might be a reason to add a new asset that you can renovate to help with cash flow or help with whatever. Chicken and the egg, right?
Yep.
The work that you do with people that you mentor through renovating, most of them want to be a renovator and therefore create an investment strategy around that, or are they doing it the other way, which is, I think, the right way?
Do you know what? There's a blend, to be honest with you. There's absolutely an entire chunk of my students that they want to become professional renovators. They want to build their entire strategy around renovating. However, that doesn't mean that all they do is flip, but it does mean that they use that as their primary skill set, and sometimes they literally continually flip again and again and again. But a vast majority of them still, even if they want to make it their primary profession, do use it in a blended portfolio. And then there's another massive cohort that are people that just love property, and they see that it's a way they can increase their yields, increase their equities, unlock, if they decide to renovate and sell one of them, unlock the cash flow. So a lot of the students see it as that extra element, and that they also don't want to be, the amount of times I hear someone say, I've got these properties, they're a bit old now, and the management, the real estate management say it needs a bit of work. And a lot of them aren't local to them. They're all around the country, and the powerlessness that they feel when they're remote to it. They don't know how to pull a remote team together. They don't even know how to understand what the market wants up there, how much they should spend on it, wherever it might be. And so I have a massive amount of people that are in that position. A lot of my students come to me with a portfolio, and that they're like, right, I need to be able to inject value, add value, manufacture equity, whatever it might be, and they see that as one of the tools.
So put you on the spot.
Oh, dear.
Which is good.
Stand by.
And I like lists. What are the 5 things that you see that makes a successful renovator, and for the purpose of
the person,
the property investment? Yes, the person. What is it? What's the inherent skill sets of those people, or what's in their DNA that makes them successful as a renovator?
I believe that one of them is they understand they're one in a team. That is absolutely essential, and that they're not control freaks. 100%. They have to, without doubt, understand that very little of it is about them except their end position. So that would be number 1. Number 2, that they're comfortable that they should be the least intelligent person on their team. I think that's absolutely essential, and that they see validity and amazingness in people of all levels of education and trade, because my team is worth so much more to me than I could ever imagine. So there's 2 things. Number 3 would be that they have vision. So they have to be able to have vision and be willing to follow a process. Have vision, but at the same time be able to follow a process. And by that, I don't mean spray painting everything white, jeeps, but there is a process and there is a formula. And if you follow it, then it will fruit for you wherever you are. I feel they need to be decisive. 100%. People that and are, realistically, regardless of the market you're in, even if you're in what people would say is a seller's market, if there's a buyer's market, if there's a cracking renovator sitting there, it's not going to last. It really isn't if it's that brilliant. So they must be decisive, and they must be willing to learn. They really have to be willing to learn.
It's a good student.
They really do. Wherever they get their information from, they have to be willing to learn.
So I'm going to flip that question around.
Yep.
And we're rushing through what is probably a podcast you can do for years, right, around this, because it is an art form, renovating.
Yep.
So I'm conscious of the speed, but I'm trying to extract as much as possible out of you. Where renovations go wrong.
Renovations go wrong when people fall in love with the property.
So I reckon that's it. So I'm going to ask you for another 5 points here.
Okay.
So being emotionally involved.
Yep. If you get way too emotionally involved, that's number 1. Number 2 would be when you do not trust your team. Number 3 would be when you only look at your budget every week rather than every day.
Okay.
Number 4 would be when you truly don't know your numbers. And number 5,
dodgy tradesmen.
Well,
Dodgy tradesmen.
you know what, I literally would get in a pub brawl to save a tradie. Like
they're worth their weight in gold. A good tradie.
My husband is often like, I understand you love them more than me. I'm like, correct, dude. Like, we're good with this. Everyone's down with this. But for me, if you don't manage your team well, if you don't select and manage your team well, then you can end up in that position. But for me, that's just an elementary mistake.
Yeah. It's a really important point, and it's sort of the leadership of the team,
Bingo. I'm pointing at him across the table.
Yeah.
Bingo. It's about leadership and about buy-in.
It's completely about leadership, and I think it's an art form, this sort of stuff, like this project management, particularly tradies, right? Tradies are cut from a different cloth than non-tradies. So you need to actually understand what makes them tick right. But
100%.
You know, if you look at like having done renos and project managed renos, you know, nothing to probably the scale that you do, but you know, you've got a team of people. You know, you've got your tradespeople, you've got your other suppliers, you've got a whole raft of talented people who are supporting
all
you
trying
on
to
it,
work together.
all trying to work together. It's the relationship that you can create. The relationship is probably the most critical thing to any renovation, I think, because
100%.
if you can motivate, cajole, bribe if required, you know, boys, look, I know you're flat out. Look, I really need this finished today. By the way, I've got a case out the back for you when you're all done.
Yeah.
You can have it at 8 o'clock at night.
And part of it is, you're completely right, part of it is about leadership, understanding how they want to communicate, understanding what their triggers are, what makes them feel worthwhile. And if you can make them feel worthwhile, make them feel part of the team, not screw them down for every last dollar. I cannot stand when people say, can you sharpen your pencil? No, my pencil's already bloody sharp. Like, I just, you know.
The cheaper you go, the more you compromise quality, compromise time,
compromise turning up.
Attitude. Yeah. You know, I've got a job over here. I'm getting paid more. Yours can wait.
100%.
It just throws everything out.
And for me, my favourite thing with my trades are when I make money, you make money. When you make money, I make money. Let's all make money together.
Yeah, that's good.
It's beautiful.
So what that is, the way into a tradie's heart is what, certainty of getting paid quickly and on time? What's the number one thing you reckon?
Respect.
Yep.
100%. 100% respect them for their craft, because they are craftsmen no matter what their trade, and it's amazing. Number 2, 100% would be knowing that they will get paid as soon as the job's done and their invoice is in my inbox. Absolutely. Number 3 is just develop a relationship. Like, just they're just real people and they're amazing people.
And that can start with buy them a coffee in the morning when you rock up on site.
I never rock up on site without a coffee. Every trade that is on site, I know what they drink. And if I bring kebabs to site on a Friday, everyone gets kebabs on Friday,
good.
yeah? You know, and it can be as simple as, like, on the last day, bringing over an esky of prawns and beer. And everyone just grabbing a handful of prawns and a beer as they leave, because that's what you do with your mates. That's what you do with your family. And a lot of the time, if I'm on site, I'm in Reno, for example, I would spend more time with those trades than I probably would my husband that week. And so treat them the way you want to be treated.
What do you do when a tradie sort of starts pushing you around a bit, which happens? Because if you get the respect of the tradie, your life is easy. If they don't respect you,
I seek to understand. So that's my big one on site. Seek to understand why an action or a statement or whatever it might be has happened, because it's not always what I think it might be. That's not always the motivation that I think it could be, and it's not always about me or about the job. It could be about anything. So I seek to understand, and then I literally will say, cool, so everything I do in life needs to be a win-win, and I'm not feeling overly like a winner right now. So how can we turn this around so you win, I win, we both make money, and we're good?
And that normally helps.
Let's be dead honest. There's been an occasion where I have said, it was a reno I did in south of Sydney, not my usual team. I brought in a new team where I may have done the big, I have heard you, if you cannot hear me, then I'll need you to leave the site.
Okay.
It's that simple. Because realistically, and you guys would know this all from just life in general and business and workplaces, a work site is nothing different to an office. And you are only as strong as your weakest link. And one of the things is that, just like in an office space or in a work environment, if there is a tradie that isn't pulling their weight, is making it harder for the other trades, it will bring everything undone. And so I guess there needs to be that, you know, if you have made a poor choice in recruitment, being ballsy enough just to go, hey.
Yeah, we go pretty quickly, make a quick call and move on.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Just move on. Just move on.
That's really good. Some gold there. So you've probably just given away years of experience, which is
I like
really
sharing.
Cool. It is really good. But you mentioned something around budgeting, and I really want to drill down into that, Naomi. But before we do, I just want to go to a quick break. All right, I'm back with Naomi Findlay. We're chatting about renovations, and we just got some gold there in terms of a couple of lists around what makes the best renovators, what makes the worst renovators, and also how to get the best out of your tradies. So I'd probably go back, write those down, and if you can use them as your mantra and engaging in this sort of stuff, you're probably doing okay. But we touch on budgeting, and you need to don't look at your budget every week or every month, look at it every single day, and this is where a lot of people go wrong. So, Naomi, how do you create a budget first of all? Because, what is the budgeting process? Do you build a budget around how much money you got to spend, or is the amount of money you've got to spend based on the budget, and the budget being what work needs to be done?
Oh my God,
Chicken
my
and
head
egg.
hurts.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
This is where you start, right? It's always hard to budget.
It is.
I've only got $20,000
Yep.
based on financing. Therefore, what can I do with that money?
Yep.
Versus I've spoken to a real estate agent, and they reckon that I need to do X, Y, Z, and in order to do that, it's going to cost $30,000. I need to go and find the money.
Yeah, see, for me, you're already too far down the line. You know, for me, you need to, obviously, if it's a property you already hold, then you would be approaching it in that sort of way. What would the market pay for what type of product, and how much would it cost me to give them that product? That's very different. If you're actually looking for a renovator, it's you need to know before you actually buy that property, you can make money. You never buy a property that you don't know up front you can make money on. It is ludicrous. So for me, I actually work on this concept called the sweet spot, that I don't believe in this whole crazy you spend a percentage of the value of your property. Like, it just does not work. I have students that buy $3 million places on Northern Beaches in Sydney, and I have students that I bought one, I was actually on the side of a water polo pool, being an agent at auction, coaching at the same time for them because they were at a wedding. I bought one in Victoria for $83,000 for them. So you can't work out your percentages of what you spend based on your property value. It does not work. So for me, it's all around understanding what the market wants, and then developing at least 2, usually 3 plans of attack about how you're going to deliver it. So each of those plans of attack will have different budget spend, and they'll have different product at the end. Because it's not always that the more you spend, the more you will get, or the least you spend, the least you will get. So it's about understanding what the market want, trying to meet it at minimum for the least amount of money. And so to develop your budget, you've got to decide first what your different kinds of work will be in those 3 different streams. And then naturally it's a cost up materials, cost up labour, cost up ancillary, as well as, so that's all things like skips.
Kebabs.
That costs money, hey.
Yep.
Like 10 tradies on a site, I'm out at least a ton.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
So costing up that, as well as holding costs, rates, gas, power, all that other stuff. Because that will vary. If your bottom version of your renovation is a 5-weeker or a 4-weeker, and your top version of renovation is actually a chop into the roof line and extend, then your holding costs are going to be greatly different across those 2 different renovation types. So for me, it's about understanding what the market want, working out 3 different ways that you could possibly deliver it to them, doing the numbers and seeing which one's actually going to profit you the most.
You've heard this no doubt a million times. I just really like the renovating and doing the work. I'm not good with numbers and spreadsheets.
Don't renovate to create wealth then. It's that simple. Or partner with someone who is. Because if you truly don't like numbers, then don't renovate to create wealth.
So renovation is a numbers game. Renovation is not really a doing game.
It's a both.
It's a both game.
It is really a both. There are so many successful renovators for wealth out there that aren't hands-on or that renovate on the other side of the country. That's great. But for me, I always say, I have a lot of people come to me and they say, I don't actually want to do the renovating. Can you just hook me up with one of your students? I'm like, no, because you actually need to understand it. Even if you don't want to be the doer, if you don't want to be the person nailing in or polishing boards or whatever it might be, you need to understand the process. Because when someone says, hey, we've just knocked out that wall and the ceiling heights are 2 inches different, we couldn't see it, we're going to need another 5K because we've got to drop the ceiling and put another one in, you need to understand what that means. And so for me, there needs to be an understanding across the numbers and across the doing, but it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect at both. You could partner.
What about sweat equity versus paying people to do the work? Where should it stop and start? Because you can look at any YouTube videos these days and learn how to tile or do whatever, right? Like if you're not a professional tradesperson, where do you reckon you should start and finish on the work that you do?
If you're not a professional tradie, I think it's absolutely essential that you don't bite off too many big tasks that you're not qualified at. There's nothing worse. There's a very famous TV couple that renovate and have holiday homes all around the country. And a good friend of mine stayed in one of them the other day. And when they turned on the shower, the bathroom flooded. So that's even when it's done by very famous renovating people. So for me, there's a massive risk in some of the jobs that you really should not tackle them if you are not qualified. There's obviously the legal ones that you shouldn't, but I think things like tiling, I refuse to fall a floor because if you stuff that, you're in the hole for a lot of money, a real lot of money. But in regard to sweat equity, it really depends what you want to do. People would say to me, how much profit should I aim for out of each property? I'm like, well, if you're going to be in it full time for 6 months, you're going to be wanting a minimum of what your equivalent wage would be plus a beautiful profit on top of that. But if you're looking to do 6 a year, working in your job, and you just do a pile of text messages and visit site once a week, you might be happy to walk away with 20K. If you do a 6 a year, it's 120, you're still earning your other income. So I guess there's that whole tension or sliding scale between how much sweat equity you want to put in, how much time you have, and how much profit you want out of it. Because it is a given, if you are good at what you do, that obviously the more sweat equity put in, the more cash that usually comes out at the end. But it's what's the opportunity cost of that time?
Yeah, it's a utility. Like I don't mind doing a renovation.
It's fun.
Yeah, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. I think I should have become a builder rather than what I do now.
It's not too late.
And I'm not, well, I actually have this conversation with my wife a lot, right?
Totally.
Rather than, I don't really know what I do for a living these days. I talk to people. But now when I look at the utility of my time, I'm so much better doing what I do during the day, and then when I'm not here at work, spending time with my family rather than being on a building site, ripping out carpet, painting walls, tiling or whatever, right? So everyone's got to make these decisions on how invested they want to be in their time versus the utility of their time to manufacture more capital to do more of this. And it's a really tough one to crack, and it's different for everyone.
And you know what? I don't think there's actually a right or wrong in it. And that's one of the things that I love so much about renovating is it's your journey. It's your picture. And it's the same as since 2001, my portfolio has done all different sorts of things depending on, was I looking to have another child? Was I not? Was I breastfeeding? Was I still in a full-time job? Was I, what was I doing? Was I on tour? Was I filming? I feel that that's one of the true gifts of it all is I have the opportunity at any point to pivot and go, I'm going to get sweaty on this one. I have the time and I have the capacity. Or it might be in the last one I did, I was touring. And so I literally ran the entire job via text. And so I think that's part of the beauty that you can, it's not you've decided that it's in concrete forever. You can bend and flex.
And this is that level of empowerment that we spoke about at the start of this podcast, that you get to control your own destiny doing this sort of stuff, just getting numbers right. If the numbers don't stack up, you're going to be back working pretty quickly.
100%. If the numbers don't stack up, don't even get in, dude. And that's why if you truly are not a numbers person, if you truly just love to renovate, that's great, but don't expect to make money out of it.
Naomi, we've run out of time, and which is a little frustrating for me because there's 1,000 other things we can talk about, like financing renovations, how you actually do the renovation. We haven't spoken about any of that stuff yet.
There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, project management, that sort of stuff. So if you don't mind, next time you're in town, you're in Newcastle.
I am in Newey.
Next time you are down here, let's get you back on. And if you like what we've been chatting about and you want more from Naomi or around renovation in general, let us know. Editor at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, or anything in particular you want to know about renovation. Be specific as you want, whether or not you use green or blue grout on your tiles. And my recommendation would be don't use either. But there's some really smart ways to scale your renos, right?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. By the way, I've got about 2 kitchens, like a whole bunch of tiles. I've got vanities. I've got all this stuff ready to go. I know. I got to get rid of them because I've got to move them. But I'm sitting there waiting for the next renovation. I can use all this stuff. Have you got a shed full of crap somewhere?
No, you know what? I'm an anti-clutter person. Yeah. In fact, the reno I'm on at the moment, I'm also a massive recycler. I love giving away my stuff because it means that they come and rip it out. So I got floors ripped up the other day. That's good. My last reno, I gave the kitchen away for free. So someone came and ripped it out and got rid of it. Like there's so many ways that you can do good.
You know what? I might actually do that with this because I don't want to put it in storage in another place.
There you go. Just give it away.
Free stuff.
Run a competition. Come and get Phil's stuff.
Come and get my stuff. Just get it out of my hair.
So true.
Some actually good stuff there, by the way. But I've been sitting there. I've been sitting on it for like, I don't know. I got it right at the end of one of the, like a huge amount of stuff, right at the end of when I stopped renovating in Sydney, because I stopped buying in Sydney and moved up to Brizzy.
Yes.
So it's just been sitting there waiting for Sydney. Now Sydney's sort of coming back.
You know what,
I reckon I
though?
can use it at some point.
The amount of money it would take for you to truck it somewhere.
I know.
Crazy.
Just
start again, dude.
Might just chuck it out. Anyway, I might put it on Gumtree. Come and get it. Thanks so much for coming in.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What's the rest of the day look like? You heading back to Newey or Newey?
I am.
Am I allowed to call it that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
You're allowed to call
All
it
right.
Newey.
Okay.
Heading back to Newey, finishing up the floors on a project this afternoon, so I need to get back and check those out. Give them a
Are
clean.
you sanding and polishing, or are you?
No, you know what? I have. It's a slab home, so I am an absolute vinyl convert for slab homes. Just crazy.
Vinyl's
crazy good.
cool. Vinyl works.
Vinyl and hybrids are so amazing for slabs or compressed board floors. So amazing and so affordable.
We're digressing. This is what we need to talk about. So next time you're in town, we'll go through all that stuff. But thanks for spending time with us today.
Pleasure.
Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. And as I said, if you like this reno stuff, I like talking about renos. It's cool. Let us know. We'll do a lot more of it. Editor at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au is where you can contact the team, ask anything. We'll sort it out. We'll probably do a Q&A as well. If you're not yet subscribing to our daily morning newsletter, so the first to know what's happening in property investment and renovation right across Australia, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. If you like what we're doing with this podcast, just click the subscribe button. You can join tens and tens of thousands of other people now who, for some reason, listen to me jabber on about property. But it's great to build this community, and I really do appreciate the connection. And it's just not me here behind Smart Property Investment. It's a great team of people. So please keep those reviews coming on iTunes or wherever you listen to this stuff. The team really gets a kick out of it. And it can be constructive as well. We're always looking to improve the show. So we'll do whatever we can so we can continue to deliver value to you guys so you're more informed property investors. We'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.